This is the Book of Jubilees, also known as the Little Genesis, a text that rewrites biblical history and challenges the orthodoxy. But what exactly did it reveal? Why did it pose such a threat that it had to be hidden from followers and scholars for centuries? Did it disclose knowledge of fallen angels? Did it contradict the timelines of the Bible? Or did it expose divine secrets the early church fathers felt were too powerful for the masses? Unlike the Genesis account, which outlines a relatively straightforward creation saga, the Book of Jubilees divides time into jubilees, periods of 49 years, and gives a much more granular account of the events. Each act of creation is meticulously dated, providing a timeline that is as precise as it is profound. What's even more controversial is the role of angels in the Jubilees narrative. The text describes angels being tasked with the responsibility of governing various aspects of the natural world, and even teaching mankind laws and moral conducts, suggesting a divine delegation of power that is largely absent from the Genesis narrative. This depiction raises significant theological questions. If angels were so involved in the early affairs of earth, what does this say about the direct influence of God in these matters? Jubilees seems to propose a cosmos where celestial intermediaries not only exist, but are active participants in the tapestry of life. The implications of such teachings are profound. They suggest a universe teeming with divine agents, each contributing to the ongoing creation and regulation of the world. This perspective might have been viewed as undermining the sovereignty of God as depicted in traditional biblical texts, leading to tensions within early religious communities. It's these kinds of deviations from the accepted narratives that led the early church fathers to view the Book of Jubilees with suspicion. The detailed alternative creation story, while rich with insights, posed a direct challenge to the orthodoxy, threatening the uniformity of the Christian doctrine at a time when consolidation under a single interpretation was deemed crucial for the survival and expansion of the faith. As we move forward, it becomes clear that the Book of Jubilees was not just another religious text. It was a manifesto of celestial governance and divine chronology, one that offered a different lens through which to view the origins of everything. But was this alternate view the sole reason for its exclusion, or was there more to the story? As we journey deeper into the mysteries of the Book of Jubilees, we encounter a narrative that casts angels not just as celestial watchers, but as active participants in the governance of the world. This involvement goes far beyond mere oversight. It enters the realm of direct influence and instruction. The Book of Jubilees describes several angels by name, tasked with specific duties that range from teaching humans moral laws to enforcing the boundaries of nature. This portrayal significantly expands the role of angels seen in the canonical texts, where their interactions with humans are typically more limited and less systematically defined. For example, the angel Mastema, often associated with adversity and testing, plays a controversial role, petitioning God to allow him to retain a portion of the spirits of the demons to challenge humans. This presents a theology where divine testing is an integral part of human existence, mediated by angelic beings. Furthermore, the angels of the presence and the angels of sanctification are described as guiding and purifying the patriarchs, teaching them the ways of righteousness directly. This direct divine pedagogy through angels is a profound divergence from the Genesis account, where divine instructions are typically conveyed through visions or rare physical appearances. Why does this matter? In the landscape of early Jewish and Christian thought, such explicit roles for angels could imply a diluted sovereignty of God, suggesting that divine will is executed through a bureaucracy of celestial beings rather than by an omnipotent deity directly. This could have been seen as a theological anomaly, too radical for early Orthodox frameworks. The implications are vast. By suggesting that angels taught laws and moral guidelines to humanity, the Book of Jubilees not only alters the perception of divine interaction, but also elevates these celestial beings to a status that nearly rivals that of God himself in terms of their influence over earthly affairs. This reimagining of angelic duties and powers may have been too controversial, suggesting a complex heavenly order that was perhaps considered too intricate or too challenging to the simpler, more direct divine narrative favored in mainstream scripture. Moving beyond the celestial, the Book of Jubilees places a profound emphasis on strict, unyielding adherence to the laws and rituals, especially those concerning the Sabbath. This text not only reaffirms the laws known from the Torah, but also introduces additional regulations that underscore a rigorous, almost unattainable level of holiness and purity. Jubilees goes to great lengths to codify every aspect of religious observance. It prescribes detailed rules for Sabbath observance that are far more stringent than those found in other texts. For example, it categorically prohibits any work on the Sabbath, defining work in a broader and more restrictive manner than the canonical books. But why this emphasis on such strict observance? Jubilees presents these laws as direct commands from God, given through angels to Moses on Mount Sinai, again highlighting the angelic mediation. This narrative suggests that correct religious practice is not just a matter of faith, but a divine mandate crucial for maintaining the sanctity of the covenant between God and humanity. The text also addresses festivals and purity laws with similar rigor, prescribing detailed rules for Passover, the Feast of Weeks, and other holy days. These include not only how to observe these events, but also how to conduct oneself before, during, and after, framing these practices as essential for spiritual cleanliness and divine favor. In an era where religious identity was both a personal faith and a communal law, such stringent regulations served to reinforce group identity and religious purity. However, this strictness could also be seen as a burden, potentially setting followers up for failure against an ideal standard of piety. Was the Book of Jubilees trying to create an ideal religious community? Or was it a tool for asserting priestly authority through complex ritual laws? The emphasis on such detailed observance might have led to its exclusion from canonical texts, as its rigidity could conflict with the more forgiving and adaptable nature of other religious doctrines. The controversy around Jubilees might stem from its portrayal of a religion wrapped in the minutiae of law, a portrayal that might have been too stringent for broader acceptance, challenging the flexibility needed to adapt to changing social and historical circumstances. The Book of Enoch, like Jubilees, was highly regarded among certain early Jewish sects, but faced exclusion from the mainstream biblical canon. Its narratives of the Watchers, angels who fell from grace by interacting too closely with humanity, mirror those found in Jubilees, suggesting a shared theological heritage or perhaps even direct influence. Jubilees and Enoch both elaborate on the repercussions of these celestial transgressions, detailing the punishments meted out to the fallen angels and the spread of corruption they brought to earth. This expansion on the brief account in Genesis provides a complex backdrop to humanity's own struggles with sin and redemption. Moreover, both texts delve into the esoteric realms of angelology and demonology, areas often avoided in more conservative religious doctrines. The detailed descriptions of angelic hierarchies and demonic origins present in these books offer a cosmic view of good and evil that challenges simpler, more dualistic interpretations. The connection between Jubilees and Enoch is particularly evident in their apocalyptic literature. Both books contain visions of the end times, offering readers a detailed and often disturbing vision of future divine judgment. This focus on apocalypse not only underscores the book's prophetic claims, but also their intent to warn and prepare their audiences for ultimate divine justice. Such texts were likely seen as both fascinating and dangerous. Their detailed depictions of hidden knowledge and future events could empower believers, but also provoke anxiety and dissent within communities struggling with political and theological pressures. The linkage of Jubilees to Enoch might have contributed to its exclusion from the canon. The profound and sometimes disturbing revelations offered by these books might have been too much for early church fathers, who preferred a more controlled theological narrative to maintain unity and order among the faithful. Another pivotal area where the Book of Jubilees departs dramatically from the canonical Bible is its chronology, particularly concerning the pre-flood era. This detailed timeline not only offers a distinct view of events, but also challenges the established biblical timeline, introducing complexities in the lineage and actions of the antediluvian patriarchs. Jubilees presents a meticulously structured timeline, dividing history into segments known as Jubilees, 49-year periods. This method of recounting time gives a precise age for the earth and situates key events with specific dates, unlike the more general timeline provided by Genesis. For instance, Jubilees provides detailed accounts of the lives and deeds of figures like Enoch, Methuselah, and Noah. It describes Enoch's ascension to heaven in a much more detailed manner than Genesis, attributing significant spiritual and moral teachings to him that are absent from the canonical texts. This text also adjusts the moral and spiritual landscape of the antediluvian world by providing specific laws and covenants that were supposedly taught to these early figures, suggesting a highly regulated divine interaction long before Moses received the commandments on Mount Sinai. Furthermore, Jubilees' version of the events leading up to Noah's flood includes interactions and pacts between humans and angels, giving a more complex explanation for the corruption that led to the deluge. This narrative posits that the cataclysm was not just a response to human wickedness, but also a divine reset of a world straying from celestial decrees. Such discrepancies in timelines and theological details would have posed significant challenges for early religious leaders seeking to establish a unified biblical narrative. The distinct and detailed chronology of Jubilees could have threatened the singular authority of the Genesis account, leading to debates over the authenticity and authority of scriptural texts. By proposing an alternative history, Jubilees not only redefines the origins and early moral narratives of humanity, but also competes with the foundational Judeo-Christian timeline. Such competition was likely unwelcome in a religious landscape where cohesion and orthodoxy were crucial for maintaining doctrinal control. Unlike the often forgiving and patient depiction of God found in other scriptures, the deity in Jubilees is a stringent enforcer of laws, quick to punish and exacting in the administration of justice. This portrayal reflects a cosmology where divine retribution is immediate and severe, leaving little room for mercy. Take, for example, the narrative of the angels who sin with human women, a story also touched upon in Genesis but expanded here with detailed consequences. In Jubilees, these angels receive swift and harsh punishments, not just for themselves, but setting a precedent that influences the divine approach to human misbehavior as well. This rigid approach to divine law extends to humans, where even minor transgressions can lead to significant consequences. Such severity is meant to underscore the sanctity of the laws handed down through angels to Moses, reinforcing the idea that these are not merely guidelines, but divine imperatives. Moreover, Jubilees includes detailed curses that befall those who stray from these laws, ranging from personal suffering to familial and community disasters. This not only serves as a narrative tool to enforce moral conduct, but also as a theological warning to its readers and listeners. The extensive list of do's and don'ts, accompanied by their severe repercussions, might have been overwhelming for early religious communities. Such depictions could foster a fear-based adherence to religion, rather than one based on understanding and love, a perspective that might have conflicted with evolving Christian doctrines of grace and redemption. Was Jubilees too harsh in its depiction of a punitive deity? Did its uncompromising stance on law and order clash with the more compassionate narratives sought by early church fathers? These questions highlight the theological and doctrinal rifts that could have led to its exclusion from the biblical canon. The Book of Jubilees is distinguished not only by its theological assertions and prophecies, but also by its meticulous codification of cultural and ritual laws. These laws cover an extensive range of practices, from dietary restrictions to detailed festival observances, imposing a framework of conduct that is both exhaustive and exacting. One of the most striking examples is its treatment of the Passover. Jubilees provides an elaborate description of how the Passover should be observed, including who can participate, how and where the lamb should be slaughtered, and the precise manner of its consumption. Such detailed prescriptions go beyond the ritual laws outlined in Exodus, suggesting a layer of sanctity and purity that must be maintained without deviation. This rigor extends to other festivals as well, such as the Feast of Weeks and the Day of Atonement, where Jubilees mandate specific rites and even the exact words to be spoken during these observances. The text emphasizes purity and separation from non-believers, prescribing practices intended to distinguish the community of followers in their piety and devotion. Moreover, Jubilees' laws on purity and impurity cover everyday life, dictating interactions with the natural world and other people. These include regulations on agricultural practices, animal husbandry, and familial relations, all designed to maintain a state of ritual cleanliness that aligns with its vision of a holy community. The profound detail and uncompromising nature of these laws might have posed significant challenges for broader acceptance within the religious communities of the time. The demands of such strict observance could be seen as impractical, especially in diverse communities where blending of cultural practices was inevitable. Furthermore, the imposition of such detailed ritual laws could conflict with emerging Christian doctrines that emphasized grace and faith over strict legal adherence. This tension between law and grace, works and faith, might have contributed to the exclusion of Jubilees from the canonical texts, as it presented a theological and practical paradigm that was at odds with the more flexible, inclusive direction of early Christianity. Jubilees claims divine revelation, asserting that its teachings were delivered by angels to Moses on Mount Sinai. This claim positions it as a text of profound authority, potentially on par with the Torah itself. However, this very claim invited scrutiny and skepticism among early church fathers and Jewish scholars alike. One of the core issues was the text's divergence from the accepted Hebrew Bible. Jubilees offers alternative narratives and laws that sometimes contradict those found in Genesis and Exodus. Such discrepancies raised critical questions. If both texts are divinely inspired, how can they disagree? Which narrative is to be accepted as authoritative?